About 20 years ago, I was a high school counselor, and I was counseling boys and girls in high schools. And one of the most remarkable findings initially when, as a counselor, was that the stories that I was hearing from boys were all about their friendships and their struggles in friendships and their desire for friendships and their sense of betrayal when they were betrayed and how painful it was. And that completely took me by surprise. And I didn't expect that. I expected them to talk about girls. I thought they were going to talk about teachers and their parents, et cetera. And what they were really obsessed about were their friends and wanting to talk about their friends, which then led to a whole 20-year investigation of following all different types of boys from all over the country. When I asked them about a question about their friendships at 13, they say, I'm really close to my friendships. By the time I ask them at 16, they say, I'm not gay. And
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. That's just a ridiculous
exactly.
response to, do you have a friend?
Exactly, and I'll say, I didn't ask you about your sexuality. I asked you if you had guy friends. And they said, no, I know that, but I'm just telling you I'm not gay. And then they'll say something like, well, my uncle's gay, or my cousin's gay, I'm not gay. And I'm thinking, okay, but tell me about your friendships. I used to have close friends. I can't find the same kind of friend I had before. I can't trust him like I used to be able to trust him. And so these very, very pained stories.
Now, there's also a statistic that around the age of 16, 17 years old, the suicide rate for teenage boys drastically increases around that age, right?
Right. So that was the most incredible finding for us. So what we discovered is right at the period in which, remember, it's the same boy year after year. Hundreds of boys followed over many, many years. The very same boy that talked about love, feeling lost without them, you would see literally all their sort of emotionally intimate words disappear from their interview. And the words that we saw were around sadness, around anger, around sort of what I would call a weird kind of neutrality, the I don't care response. And you saw a very different language set in at about 15, 16, and that was right at the time that you all of a sudden get nationwide a dramatic increase in the number of suicides among boys. They become 5 times the rate of girls. So there was a show on Sunday about Nelson Mandela, and they were talking about how wonderful Nelson Mandela is. And they were saying the part that made him wonderful is that he was so emotionally stoic. And they were saying what was so incredible about him and what made him such a great leader is that he didn't reveal his emotions. And I thought, I thought that's the problem, right? I mean, in fact, Nelson Mandela was a great leader because, in fact, he was motivated by his emotions, his love of his people, of his love of the country. That's actually what made him the great person he was. But the framing of it as that he was great because he was emotionally stoic is connected to why it's so hard for men to have friendships, because we think that emotional expression, engaging with people emotionally, is weak, female, in a homophobic culture, gay.
When you guys were starting the fathers group and you were going to meet and this idea was proposed to you, did you feel like you had to confront any of these fears of femininity in any way?
No, I am the type of person who never actually felt that way. Those pressures were not they did not bear on me. I was fortunate enough to have a very, very nurturing work environment at the time. And so I had a lot of close friends, and we talked about many things. But then that changed, and there was a void. And this was a void that was filled very, very quickly. I mean, I would also like to say that to the younger and even older listeners that it's never too late. Basically, the impulse is there. We formed a group that was in our middle ages, early to middle ages, and yet I've heard story and story again about people going into retirement and doing this very same thing. Even though it's not common, it's available, and you just have to give into it.